I'm Father Charlie Wehrley. I'm a Redemptorist from the Denver province in the United States. I've been ordained since 2001. I'm currently a retreat director, and I just had a natural interest in retreat ministry. In my first assignment to Omaha, Nebraska, there was a Columban retreat house south of us, and I got a call one day from one of the fathers saying, "I understand you do 12-step ministry." I said, "Yes." And he asked me to do an AA retreat, and that was the very first retreat I ever did. And I did it without just without any training for it. I just put it together by myself. It went really well, and so in 2005, I asked to be moved to the Redemptorist Renewal Center in Tucson, Arizona, where I've been a retreat director now for 16 years. A retreat basically is a way for people to reflect on their relationship with God, on their relationship with themselves, and on their relationships with other people. My retreats are all basically 12-step spirituality based. And the idea behind those retreats is that I need to learn to love me so that I can love my neighbor well, and then I can love my God well. And so I have a variety of retreats. I think I've created somewhere over 50 different retreats for mostly people suffering from addictions. Uh, and I have a following, so I have to constantly keep up with creating new retreats for those followings. The thing about my retreats is that they're very interaction. There's a lot of interaction in my retreats. I just don't get up and talk. I get up, I prepare a morning meditation and prayer, and then part of that meditation, I ask people to tell me how did it affect them. And then from that point on in the retreat, I do instructing, but I always ask people to raise their hand if they have a comment. And so it becomes very conversational, the retreat itself. And if I'm hearing from the people that they need something different from what I had planned, I know how to just switch gears and start speaking about the things that they really need to hear in order to make their lives better. I'm not sure that there's a way a person should prepare themselves for a retreat other than wanting to change their behavior in the type of retreats that, well, I guess really in any type of retreat. You go on retreat because you want to have a better relationship with God and a better relationship with yourself and others. And so you have to be willing to do the work. I always tell people that, you can pray all you want. God's not going to drop a miracle out of the sky for you. You have to do your part. You have to do what you're able to do, and then you need to turn to God and say, please do for me what I can't do for myself. And that's especially important in 12-step ministry when people are trying to overcome addictions, because you can only do so much to overcome the addiction yourself. You have to rely on God, or we call it a higher power, in order to enter into recovery and to totally kick the addiction. It was started by Bill Wilson for Alcoholics Anonymous. And again, the point of the Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps, is that first I have to acknowledge that there's a power greater than myself who can help me. And then I have to surrender myself to that higher power. At the same time, I have to take responsibility for my behaviors, for my bad behaviors, and for my character defects. So I have to write out a list of all my character defects and the things that I've done that have been hurtful to people. And then I have to confess them to someone. Could be a priest, could be a best friend, could be a mentor in the 12-step program. Then I have to be willing to take it all and turn it over to God and just release it. The next step I have to get into is seeking forgiveness from those people that I have hurt. And we emphasize the fact that you can seek the forgiveness. It doesn't mean that the person is going to forgive you. But even if they don't forgive you, you've done exactly all you can do. There's nothing more you can do than to go to them, tell them how sorry you are, and ask if there's any way that you can make amends for what you've done. Then we take a daily inventory of ourselves to see how did we do during the day. Did we slip back into bad behavior during the day? If we did, then we need to take responsibility for it again. And then the 12 steps basically rounds up with, again, I have to rely on God, and then I have to take what I have learned and I have to share it with people who are still suffering. And I grew up in an alcoholic household. My father was the alcoholic. My mother was very codependent. I learned her codependency. And codependency, many people don't understand. The codependency is a person will take another person and make them into their false higher power. So then that person becomes responsible for all my happiness. And I will manipulate them any way I can, people please them, caretake them, whatever I have to do to get them to love me and need me and make me happy. Okay, where the person, I mean, a person's really supposed to be able to do that for themselves. No one can really make you happy but you. No one can be responsible for your happiness but you. So codependents take a person and make them into a higher power, or false higher power, just the way the alcoholic will take the bourbon bottle and make it into his or her false higher power, or a drug addict, the drug, or a food addict, food. These are all ways in which addicts make something material into a false higher power to emotionally medicate away all the pain they have from the beginnings of their lives that they don't want to deal with. In recovery, you learn to deal with that pain. You go back into childhood, you find out, and you admit to the pain that you went through in childhood, and you then learn to heal that pain through the program. It was opened in 1964. We mostly are a hosting facility right now. We host other groups who already have retreat directors. The current director, he does a lot of meditation retreats. My focus is on the 12-step spirituality, although I do other retreats as well because I want to broaden my base to some degree. And so I do a series of retreats that I call Soul-Centered Music as Prayer. And the first one, I used classical music, and I asked people to listen to the songs, and then when I finished playing 2 to 3 songs, tell me what did they experience when they were listening to those songs. How did they feel God moving through their souls? What did they envision when they were hearing those songs? Did they bring up memories from the past? And then I came up with a sacred edition, which was all based in classical sacred music. And I have a 3rd edition now based solely in the sounds of the cello in classical music. And in these retreats, I've been amazed at the stories that have come up and that people have shared with me. And so many people break out into tears because that type of music just hits to their soul, because music, I think, is the closest thing to the voice of God that we have on this earth. And so that's a very popular series. And then I also do a series of Disney retreats, because in Disney movies, you have the child storyline, but underneath that storyline, there is a very serious message, spiritual message for adults. And so in those retreats, we study the serious spiritual message for adults in order to bring that to the surface and show how a particular movie is actually teaching you how to become a better person. For example, like Aladdin. Aladdin doesn't think very much of himself. He doesn't think he's worth having the princess for his bride. And so he treats himself like he's worthless, when in truth, he finds out that who you are, no matter who you are, is who you are inside that gives you worth and value. It's not whether or not you are a street rat, as he's called, or whether you're a prince or a king. All your value comes from within. All your value comes from God. And so those are the type of messages that we look for. Thanks for tuning in to RAM TV. You can find us on YouTube. Please go to our page and make comments, like whatever video you may be watching, and subscribe to the channel.